In this tutorial, I'm going to show you the new Visual Composer Page Builder. This is different than the old Visual Composer plugin that was later renamed to WPBakery Page Builder that you can buy on Code Canyon and through themes on ThemeForest. This new Visual Composer is a standalone page builder, and it competes with the likes of Elementor, Beaver Builder, Brizy, Site Origin, all the big name page builders, and does a really good job. Has some great features that those guys don't have yet. And I'm going to show you all about it as we build this one-page website in this tutorial. And we're getting started right now. Hey, what is up? My name is Bjorn. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time here and you like WordPress and WordPress tips and tricks and getting better at it, make sure you click subscribe, then the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. And with that out of the way, get on the private Facebook group linked to down below where we talk all about WordPress and help each other with WordPress. And with that out of the way, let's get into the screen capture. I'll see you there. What we're going to build is a slick looking one-page website. So we have this nice big gorgeous image up here. This is actually a font right here. This is a Google font. When you hover over this image or when you move your mouse, the image moves as your mouse moves, which is a nice effect that I haven't seen in any page builders except for Visual Composer. We have these nice gradient buttons. When you hover over them, the gradient reverses, which is pretty cool. Now if we scroll down, the next part of the website scrolls over top of the previous part. Now we have more information here. Again, same image movement as you move your mouse around, same hover effect on the button. Scroll down further, we have another section that pops up. Scroll down further, we have the Contact Us section that pops up. And scroll down further, we have the footer that pops up. Now this type of web design isn't for everybody because it's very visual. This would be best suited for photographers, for a nightclub even. But there is a lot of uses for this type of design, and even just learning the techniques of how to be able to have these sections that overlap, which is not something you commonly see in websites. So to get started, we're going to first have to install the Visual Composer plugin. So let's do that. So the plugin we're using is Visual Composer. And this is from visualcomposer.io. This is not to be confused with the Visual Composer of the past. It's the same company, but now they've gone from being listed on Code Canyon and being bundled into themes, and they sell their plugin now through their site, and they've become a complete page builder. Before it was a plugin that allowed you to do nice things on pages on the website, but now they're a real solid page builder, and they're competing with the likes of Elementor, Brizy, Beaver Builder, things of that nature. And the plugin I'm using is a premium version. To get the premium, just click on Get Premium. They also have a free version, which does a lot, but some of the templates and things we're going to use needs the premium. But if we check out the premium pricing, it is somewhere on this page. Here it is. So single site, $59. That's, I think, $10 more than Elementor, but pretty close. $149 for three, $349 for developers, and there's always sales. At the top of the page, we see this Halloween sale, 20% off, which is right now, or expires tomorrow. So there's always sales. Black Friday probably have a sale as well. So it's very competitively priced, and we're going to use this plugin to build this site. So let's install Visual Composer and Contact Form 7 because we want to have a contact form. So let's go to Plugins and then Add New. Let's get Contact Form 7 first. This guy right here, click on Install, then click on Activate, and now let's click on Add New again. Visual Composer comes from their website. It's not in the repository, so we got to click on Upload Plugin, choose File, find it on your hard drive. Got a whole mess of stuff in here. Open. Once you find it, click on Install to install it. Then click on Activate Plugin. I'm going to click on Premium version. I'm going to click on Activate Premium. Check this box, pick my category, Community Education, Activate Premium. So that's my login credentials for the Visual Composer website. I just log in. So with this login functionality, you don't need to go and grab the license key from their website separately. It logs you right into their site from your website. So click on Activate for the license key once you're in here. That takes us back to our website now, and it's going to download the Pro extensions that are going to be included in the plugin. And I believe there's 43 of them that it downloads. Went pretty quickly there. And then there's a bunch of slider information, not slider information, but there's some sliders here showing what you can do. I'm going to click on Blank Page to start a new page. And if you've used Visual Composer or WPBakery Page Builder in the past, you notice there are some similarities, but there also are some very big differences that we'll touch on in this tutorial. One of the biggest ones, all of the editing is done on the front end, whereas before the editing was done in the front end or in the WordPress editor if you wanted to. Now it's only on the front end. So here's where we choose a template for a page. We have a totally blank template where we just add elements from Visual Composer to build out the page. We can have a header and a footer on the bottom, content in the middle, header, footer on the bottom, content in the middle, sidebar on the right, and here's a sidebar on the left, and a theme-defined layout. And you notice these pop-ups with the previews that are actually really, really helpful when you're starting out. Later on, once you're pro at this plugin, they might get a little annoying because when we add elements using this plus icon, which we will do a lot more in just a minute, when you hover over all of these, they also have previews, which if you're an expert, could get pretty annoying. So what they've done is under settings, this little gear icon at the very bottom, click on disable preview or turn on disable preview. And now when we add elements, hover over them, the preview is gone. They still have it for the template picker, and that's okay because the template picker, it's just one spot. It's pretty minor. But being able to remove the preview from these general elements is actually pretty useful once you get really good at the plugin. And for this tutorial, we're going to pick this one and get started. And now we have our please select header call to action, please select footer call to action, and our contact area in the middle where we add our contact. Here we have quick links to add full width rows, a bunch of different column presets, custom column layouts, a text box, an element, or paste something. Because we're building this page with big old images, we're going to use full width rows for most of this site build. So I'm just going to shrink this one this way. You easily go back and forth. So we're going to do a full width row right here. And that's it right there. And I'm going to set a background image. Before I do that, let's go over some of the things you can do in Visual Composer or the way it's laid out. So when you hover over a row like I am here, we have these options that appear. And there's a lot of options. So this first box, as I hover over, you see the little text fly out the text title that shows up saying row. These are settings and options that affect the row. And there's a little arrow. It's like a hierarchy. So there's a little arrow. And the next one is the column. So now we have one column in the entire row. So the column takes up the whole row. And you can edit the settings of the column in here. And then there's edit. In this case, edit column. But if there's an element inside here, it would be edit that element. And then we have remove column. These other options on the left-hand side, we're going to get to those as we go through this tutorial. And what we're going to do is add a background image. So I need the image of this gentleman looking at the neon lights. And that's going to be the background image for our first row. So let's go ahead and add that. Hover over the row, click on edit. We scroll down to where we have design options and a background image. Click on images to add an image. I'm just going to drag and drop all of the images that we're using for this site. These 4 right here. So we have them all when we need them later. Just uncheck the ones we're not importing to this section. So just this first image is going in here. Click on add image. And now we have our image. It doesn't quite look how it does in our demo. We're going to fix that in just a minute. And for some reason, it added 2 images in here. If you have multiple images, you don't want multiple, just click on this little X and the second one will be gone. Now let's set some more of these row settings here. So it's already set to cover the entire background, which is great, but the background isn't full width. So to do that, let's click on the gear icon. That takes us to the settings for the entire page. Then we click on stretch content. Now our image is the full width. And later on, we're going to select a header and footer for in here. And if you like we saw at the beginning, we chose a page with a content area, a header, and a footer, which is denoted by the symbol. We can switch the other ones that were options just by clicking on one of these, and it will convert whatever we have on this page to fit into these layouts. So let's go back to our row. Click on edit again. Let's change this to full height. Now it's the full height of the browser window. If you have a smaller computer with a smaller browser window, it's going to be the full height of that. So whatever the full height is of whatever screen you're on, this image on this row will now be full height for that browser or that size. Row width, I'm going to change it to stretched row. And I'm going to keep the column gap where it is. I'm going to show you some more cool stuff you can do with the background image. You can change the background position of the background. All these different options are available. So if your background image is bigger than the element you're putting it into, you can change the position. So if we go top left, and now the very top left corner of the image, which is right up here, is going to match the top left corner of the row. And bottom right, this will match the bottom right corner of the image to the bottom right corner of the row. So our image shifts. This only works, like I said, if the image is bigger than the container. If it's not, then this won't work. And this is something designers would be picky about. It's not something the general public needs, but it is a cool option. We're also going to add a parallax effect. There's the simple one that we see everywhere, where we scroll and you can see on his hair here, his hair is going a little bit faster than scrolling down the row. This is a bad example because we don't have enough content on the page. If we go to simple with fade, it fades eventually, not enough content on the page again. But the mouse move is the one we want. This is where we put our mouse on the background and the background moves as we move our mouse. I'm going to change the speed to 1 to make it much slower, because that was pretty fast the way it went there. But when we're moving our mouse, see, if I don't move the mouse, I just leave it there, nothing moves. I move the mouse, background moves. That's a pretty cool effect. Not available on Elementor, and not available in any page builders I've seen. This is the only one where I've seen it. But now we have our image, just like here. So we have our background image. We want to add our text now. So we have this nice Google Fonts headline here. We have a little bit of regular text and a nice gradient button. So let's add those. So the first thing we want to do is add an element. Click on this little plus icon. You can barely see because it's dark, but there's a plus icon here. And when you click it inside of an area, whatever element you choose will be added to that area. If you don't click on the plus, if you just went to the plus over here, it would add the element to the bottom of the page. Then you have to drag and drop it to where you want it. So you always want to click in to where you have the plus icon, click on the plus, then your element choice will pop into there. And there's a lot of different choices, as you can see here. You can just scroll through these really quick so you can take a quick gander at them. And if you're familiar with Visual Composer and WPBakery Page Builder, a lot of these are going to be familiar to you as well. And you can get more from the Visual Composer Hub. If you have the premium version like we do here, I'm going to show you in a little bit. We have this icon down at the bottom here, which is the hub, and that's where you can download a huge number of different templates and button styles and all kinds of stuff to make your development faster. I'm going to go ahead and put a row in here. Yes, a row inside of a row. And I'm actually going to change the full width under the gear icon back to not full width or stretch content to off, because I'll tell you why in just a second once this reloads. When we stretch the row, if we go to edit row, we're able to stretch the row to full width using this icon. And so the content within it, I don't want stretched full width. I want to have some padding on the sides where we're going to have our content. And I'm going to go into edit the row, and we're going to give it a height. I'm going to do that by just adding padding. I'm not going to add any content to it. Just going to add some padding. So now we have a bigger row, or at least more space for the row. Because if we go to our demo here, our content's not squished to the very top. There's a bunch of space. So that's where we're adding space in there. And I'm going to also add 2 columns below our big column. So the way you can visualize this is we have our row that spans maybe out to here. And within that we have 2 columns. So we want the spacing above to be applied. And then we want 2 columns below that with our content. There's a bunch of different ways you can design this. This is just one way I'm doing it. So in our row layout, we have 100% row, but then we can also add a 50% row and a 50% row. And I did that wrong. Let's go plus 50%. And now we can see with the dotted lines here, we have 2 content areas now that are half the width. And if you wanted to, you don't have to have them at 50%. Like I have there, you can drag and drop them to change them to whatever value you want. Or you can also have different values, just make sure they add up to 100. Otherwise, they're not going to go to the very end over here. And it's inside of this row column right here that we're going to add our text. Click on the plus icon. I'm going to search for Google Fonts. In fact, I see it already. It's right down here. I'm going to click on apply to get this headline in here. And the text we have is Why Neon Lights. So let's change the title here. All capitals, Why Neon Lights. Cool feature. a visual composer that I haven't seen in other page builders. You can edit inline, which is not uncommon, but when you do click to edit inline, everything else grays out and just the part you're editing is in a lighter background, which is pretty cool. You click somewhere else and it then undoes the gray out. I'm going to change the font family from Lato to Monotone, which is a cool neon light type look. These guys right here, it's a little small. Font style, which is the boldness of the font, I'm going to keep it 400. I'm going to keep it as an H2. And then for the color, I'm going to change it to gradient. And then we have the color options here. I'm just going to make the font size a bit bigger so we can see it a bit better. So let's make it 80. I'm going to change the top one. Let's make it red. The other one, let's make it blue. Don't see nice blues in here. Let's just pick one. All right, that's pretty nice. We can change the angle of the gradient if we want to, which is pretty awesome. It's kind of hard to tell, but the line that the gradient goes in is probably here now, the direction of the line. And now it's almost horizontal. So I kind of like that angled look. And this changes as you type more words. So if we were to, let's just start typing. So we have just a W. So the gradient spans the W. The entire gradient is on the W. We add the H, and now it spans both the letters. As we type, we can see the gradient changing. And I think that is pretty awesome. Another thing that Visual Composer does, when you add an element, we have the element editor menu option appear in this top menu area. If this was an image, for example, like this background, no, not the background, but we'll see later when we add images and buttons that this icon changes, and then the options in here are for that type. So I'm going to add some text. I'm going to click on this little plus here, and I'm just going to add a text block. That's going to go in right below. I'm going to take out the title and the text that we used in our example. Let's see, is this. It's going to copy that. And I click search in Google. It's not what I wanted. Click on copy, and then click into here, click on paste. To change the color of the text inside of here, because we're using the WordPress editor, we have to switch over to visual. Click on the toolbar and then choose a color for the text. Choose custom colors. You can create custom colors or choose one of the predefined ones. I'm just going to choose white. Let's select all the text first and then do that. And now it will all be white except for this one because it's telling me it's a spelling error. So one of my plugins called Grammarly is not playing nice. So let's make that correct spelling according to the plugin. Now it'll go white. Okay. So you might experience that too if you're using Grammarly. And it basically just adds these span tags around the text, and that will make the color white. So it's doing the CSS for you, essentially. Now we're going to add a button down below the text here, but not just any button, but a cool gradient button, where the gradient reverses when you hover over it. So I'm going to click on the plus icon. I'm going to look up button. We have our gradient button right here. I'm going to click on plus. I'm going to change it so it is a pill shape like this. I'm going to change this to read more. I'm going to change the colors. What do we have? Not that it has to be exact, but we had orange to purple. So let's make color 1 orange. Color 2 a little more purple than that. That's pretty good. By default, it has the hovering effect. So you can change the gradient direction if you want. We don't have the degrees of gradient direction, but we do have horizontal and vertical. And there we have our button. And we have our entire section completed now. So now I'm going to save this page. To save, click on this little check mark down here. Then to see what the page looks like, click on the hamburger icon in the bottom left and click on View Page. And now we have our page here with our cool mouse over hover movement, the button that changes, and now we're ready to add the next section. So if we go back into the editor, the fastest way to add the next section, since it's pretty much the same as this one, is to go to the row options, click on clone. And then we scroll down and we have our new section that looks the exact same as the one above it. But we're going to change it to look like the one in the demo. So we're going to change the background image first. We're going to go to the row options, click on edit, scroll down to our image. Here it is. Click on the X to remove it. Click on the plus to add another one. And we're going to add this guy right here. Click on add. There he is. Going to change the headline to make it all caps, highly reflective. I'm going to change the text down here to the text that's on the page, which is bright neon lights look great when they're reflecting off sunglasses at night. Reflective here goes into 2 lines. We don't want that. So I'm going to just make this column a little wider. I want to change the color of both the title, the headline, and the button. So I'm going to have kind of a orangey color here, and then a bit of a nice light blue, maybe this guy right here. The first one has to be a little more red. That's pretty good. And now let's change the button to the same ones. This reddy orange, and then kind of turquoisey, really light blue. All right, so now we have our next section. Now what we want is to have this section scroll over top of the first section. We do that using stickiness, and it's a pretty cool little trick. So if you go to the row options, go to row options and edit, go to the very, very bottom, we have a sticky area. Click on, make it sticky, and now it's sticky. I want to add a z-index. The z-index is basically, you can imagine a stack of paper on a desk. If the lowest z-index is the bottommost paper, that's a z-index of 0. And then every paper that's stacked on top has a higher and higher z-index. So for this first element, I'm going to give it a z-index of 10. And for the second one, down below, if I can get there, we can see the back one scrolling down beneath it. So if we go to the row editor for that one, we're going to give it a z-index that's larger than 10. Go down to the bottom, make it sticky, give it a z-index of 20. And now when we scroll down, that bottom one is going to scroll over top. And every sequential row is going to have a higher and higher z-index. Again, going back to our stack of paper on a desk, the bottommost paper has the lowest z-index. Then each paper on top has a higher and higher z-index, and the topmost paper has the highest z-index out of all of them. And the z-index is in reference to the z-axis. If you're a math nerd, you know all about the z-axis. If you don't know about it, don't worry about it. Just imagine a stack of papers on a desk. Lowest z-index at the bottom, highest z-index is at the top. And now we have our 2 sections like that are pretty cool. Now we want to have 4 sections in total to replicate our site. Because I'm going to add the other 2 in fast forward because it's the exact same process, but you can watch along as I do it. And then we will add the contact form and the menu at the top and the footer at the bottom. Then we'll talk some more about some other features in Visual Composer. So we're going into fast forward right now. All right, so now we've added all our sections, and if we scroll down, we see them, and they're all overlapping like that. I think that's one of the coolest effects out there, and they all have, when we move the mouse, the background image moves, all the buttons have the reversing hover effect, and the last couple things we want to do is add a menu at the top, a footer at the bottom, and a contact form on this contact page right here. So to do those 3 things, we're going to have to exit the builder, click on the hamburger icon down here, go back to WordPress. And first let's make the menu at the top, the footer at the bottom. So let's go to headers under Visual Composer. And these are all the header templates that you've created. So far we have none. I'm going to click on add header to make a new one. I'm going to call this site header. Click on start building. going to make this a template, actually. So if we click on the Visual Composer Hub on the bottom left down here, we see all of the templates available in the hub, and there's always more and more being added. So this might be different when you come here, but there's already a lot in here, as you can see. But if we, from the drop down here, choose header and footer, you can also choose headers here. I'm going to just make a really simple one. I'm going to choose this one right here. And as with anything, you hover over it, you see a preview, which is pretty handy. Click on the plus icon, that adds it to the page. And then I'm going to delete this image here. I'm going to make this text. So let's hover over the image icon, click on remove, click on the plus icon, add a Google Fonts. I'm going to call this Shiny Lights. And I'm going to choose a script. I think it's, no, it's not that one. Leckerei 1. Said that in German accent. Don't know if that's actually a German word or not. Anyway, going to make it a gradient. It applies those gradient colors. I found that the gradient options don't appear unless you save it and then refresh it. So if we click on save here now, we see the gradient options aren't there. But if I refresh, the gradient color options will appear. Go back into the editor, and here we have the gradient options. I'm going to remove the menu on the right because I'm just going to make this super simple. I'm going to make the background of this row. Let's go to edit row. Make the background dark. Background color is currently white. I'm going to make it this color and then fade it out so it's not too visible. I'm going to also change, see, not going to make it full height. I'm not going to make that equal columns. I'm going to stretch it. I'm going to see if there's some padding applied somewhere. There's a lot of space in here that I don't really necessarily want. Oh, here's the padding. Let's just make this 0 and then 0 down here. That doesn't look quite right, so I'm going to add a padding of 20 at the top. That's pretty good. There's some height to this element here. So I think that looks pretty good. The last thing I want to do is just make this row sticky. So go to row and then edit. Go to the very bottom, make it sticky. And z-index, I have to make this a little higher. Let's make this a z-index of 70, just so it's a larger z-index than all of the pages that we have, or all the rows we have overlapping each other in the demo. Now that's set, go back to the WordPress dashboard. You can click on Set as Default, and unlike the Elementor headers, these are not applied site-wide. These are only applied on Visual Composer pages. So if you set as default, that's only default on Visual Composer pages. If you don't set as default, you can have different headers for different pages, and I'll show you where you can apply those in just a second. I'm not going to set as default because I'm going to show you how to apply the header on the page itself. I'm going to go to Footers and click on Add Footer. And it's the exact same process, just this time we're adding the stuff to the bottom of the page instead of the top of the page. I'm going to call this Site Footer. I'm going to go back to our hub. I'm going to click on Footers. And I'm going to choose a dark one because our site's pretty dark in color. So I want to keep it in line with that. Let's just change some of the stuff in here. Keep Visual Composer Website Builder, that's fine. Powered by WP Learning Lab. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's see if we can remove a little padding. That's pretty tall. Let's make this 0 and 0. See how that looks. Doesn't look good. Let's put 10 on top. That's better. Okay, so this one, we want to have sticky as well, because I want this to show up as we scroll to the very bottom instead of just being there. So under the row editor where we are right now, go down to the very bottom, click on sticky, z-index, make this 80, the highest z-index of all. Click on save. Now exit back to the dashboard. Now we have a site footer that we're going to add in just a little bit. First, we're going to get the short code for the contact form. So we added our contact form 7 plugin at the very beginning, and with that plugin, or when it's installed, it automatically creates a very simple form. You can get the short code from right here. If you want to do some advanced stuff with contact form 7, I have a whole playlist on contact form 7. Click on the card up above or the link in the description down below to check out that contact form 7 playlist. Let's go to pages. I also said earlier that when you create a new page by just going with add new with Visual Composer, it may save it as auto draft, which might not be what you want to call it. So I'm going to do a quick edit, and I'm going to call this homepage, because that's what we're making. Just call this home, then click on update. But now watch this. It's called homepage, but if you visit the site, we will see that it's not actually the homepage. To make it the homepage, go to settings, and then reading, then select the static page. For homepage, select homepage. Click on Save Changes. Now if we refresh out here, now the page we've built will appear as the home page. And there we have that nice fancy page. We just need to add our header and footer. So let's go back to Pages, All Pages, so we can see all of them. Click on Edit with Visual Composer for the home page. Let's add our header first. Here we can go click on Add Header. And it takes us to this gear icon menu. We can select the header from here, Site Header. And this is where you'd select any header you'd want. The default header will be applied to everything, but then whatever header you select here would be applied to this section or this page. If we go to the very bottom, we don't have a footer right now, but let's scroll up one little bit, click on Select Footer, Site Footer. And because we have this set as a sticky footer, it's not going to appear right away. It's going to scroll up from the bottom, and then we have it scrolling up. See how it just appears? It's not like it's scrolling up as the page ends. It's another overlaying row, which I think is a pretty cool effect, like I've said many times in this tutorial. Another cool feature that Visual Composer has that a lot of other page builders don't have, Elementor does not have this. I actually haven't seen a page builder that has this. We have the option to add both local and global CSS. It's the global option that I've never seen in other page builders, and this is CSS that will be applied to the entire website. Local would be just to this one page, and JavaScript. You can apply just to this one page, or globally add JavaScript by adding it here. Those are pretty cool options you don't see a lot. So over here is where we want a contact form. Click on the plus icon, and I'm going to put in a text block. And go to text editor. I'm going to delete everything that's in here and paste in our form shortcode. And then bada bing, our form shows up. Our footer hovers over top of the form. So we need to add some padding to the row. Go to the row settings, edit the row. Let's add some padding at the bottom. Make it 150 pixels. Scroll down, see how that looks. Not quite enough. Make it 200. I think 150 is enough. This wasn't applied properly for some reason. Yeah, there we go. 150 is pretty good. You know what? We can do even less. Let's try 100. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then click on Save. Go out to our front page here. Refresh the page. We have our contact form here. We have our footer at the bottom. We have our menu at the top. The menu is being overlapped by the WordPress admin bar. But if we go to some place where we're not logged in, we have our menu correctly positioned. And this is our site that we just built. It's a pretty flashy site. I like the way this works a lot with the overlapping rows. I've said that a million times. I'm sorry, but I like it a lot. And that is a quick look at building a page with Visual Composer and throughout showing you all the cool stuff you can do with it. One more quick thing, really quick. As with all visual builders, we have the ability to preview our page on different devices. But Visual Composer gives more options than I've seen in any other page builder. Click on this little preview icon here. We have, what's this one? Responsive view, desktop view, tablet landscape, tablet portrait, mobile landscape, mobile portrait. Click on any of them and the size of everything adjusts to fit that screen size. So that's tablet landscape, tablet portrait, a little skinnier. So as you can see, we have some things to adjust for the spacing for these different devices. But I just want to show you that you have all these different preview options that you don't have on other platforms, other page builders. Might be added in the future, but there's definitely a couple things that Visual Composer has a leg up on any other page builder I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is some cool stuff in here. And for that reason, I think Visual Composer is actually a contender in the very saturated page builder market. And a cause of a lot of confusion is the naming conventions of this plugin. There used to be a Visual Composer a long time ago, made by the same company, and they changed the name to WPBakery Page Builder, I think 1 or 2 years ago. And now this is Visual Composer again. The other ones were sold through Code Canyon. They're bundled with a lot of different themes. This one is sold on the visualcomposer.io website. And it's a legitimate page builder. I guess they can expand their capabilities way beyond what's possible in Code Canyon, I'm not sure. Or it's just more profitable for them to have this on their website versus selling through Envato, which is probably the case. Either way, this Visual Composer page builder adds a lot of new features that WPBakery Page Builder does not have, nor does the old Visual Composer. So the naming is confusing. I hope I've cleared it up at least a little bit. Anyway, I'd love to know in the comments down below if you think that this plugin is a contender in the page builder market. And if it is, what is it that you like about this plugin or this page builder that you don't have in other page builders? I'd love to hear what you think down below. So that's how the new Visual Composer page builder works. I hope this video helps you. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you hit subscribe, then the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. Check out the private Facebook group, linked to in the description down below. And then make sure you check out the next video that popped up on the right-hand side. And until next time, keep crushing it, and I will see you in the next video.